weren't able to learn? Who would we be if learning wasn't a backbone of what we do on a day to day basis from a very young age? Now, honestly, this sounds like an incredibly simple question and it sounds kind of stupid almost. But my point of asking it is to shine light on the fact that many times as we grow up and as we get older, we lose sight of the fact that life is all about learning. At some point or another, we somehow fall into the state of mind where it's like, it is what it is. I don't really need to learn anything else. I've learned it all at this point. I don't need to continue to study. I don't need to continue to grow in any sort of way. But my friends, you're always going to continue to grow in some sort of way. That's what we don't realize. That's what comes along with this adage of, I'm just getting old, or I'm just getting older. Can't teach an old dog new tricks, right? Now, obviously, you know, learning stuff when you're younger is probably easier than when you're older, um, scientifically speaking. But what's also going on is the idea, or not even the idea, the facts behind neuroplasticity. Now, obviously, I'm no neurologist and I'm not heavily versed on any of this stuff, but the simple concept of neuroplasticity is all you need to understand to see that you are always going to be growing and changing and developing in some way, shape, or another. And the implications of that is that what you do on a day to day basis very much matter. Because again, a lot of times we don't think they do. A lot of times we get to this mindset at some point in our life where it's like, all right, whatever. I don't need to worry so much about learning at this point. I don't need to worry about what I'm doing. It's not going to make a difference. Sometimes when we fall into a negative habit or negative pattern, right, or a sequence of patterns, it's just like, oh, it's not going to make a difference. I did this for so long and it didn't make a difference. But it's always making a difference, my friend. Back to neuroplasticity, that's why it's always making a difference. Neuroplasticity is simply put, again, this is not a very highly scientific definition. You can look it up for yourself. But basically, neuroplasticity is your mind's always firing and wiring together for new concepts, new patterns, new recognition of different things in life, right? It's a simple thing to understand when you think of muscle memory. At any age, we can develop muscle memory. Now, of course, yes, it might slow down as you get older. It definitely slows down as you get older compared to when you're a baby, right? Especially, but you can always develop muscle memory for one instance, for like with playing on I'm sorry, using a mouse on a computer, using machinery of any kind, driving. We get used to these things and we learn how to do it better, so we don't have to use as much brain power for those small parts of it. And this happens with everything. Neuroplasticity is always happening, right? So that's what I say when I say that you're always changing, growing, developing, no matter what age you are. It's the truth. Even at 50 years old, 70 years old, 80 years old, going to the bar and drinking every day, if you go and do that, that's firing more so and more so into your mind. It is becoming a bigger part of you and your mind, your brain, literal like brain, your brain makeup. It is firing closer and closer together within your brain to make it more of a part of you. And it happens with everything. Again, getting to be a better drinker of some kind, getting to be a better person and watching TV, getting to be better at a job, getting to be better at working out. You're constantly working down this path of progressing in some way. Now, maybe I should clarify when I say getting better or progressing. What I really mean is the habit of doing something in particular in one way or another is what you're developing. The habit of one thing in particular. It doesn't have to mean you're getting better in general, right? Because when I say getting better in general at drinking, you might think, oh, I can drink more, da 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 da. And no, I haven't gotten better at drinking. No, what I mean is like the little parts of it, right? Going to the bar after 5 o'clock on a Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday becomes that much quicker of a what you're doing, of a mindset, of a pattern. How fast you drive there, how you drive there, right? Like all of it. How you ask for your shot, how you do whatever it is. And I'm using drinking because a lot of times we don't realize how negative habits become worse. You can apply this to anything though. Like for instance, when I'm standing here at the computer, the way that I stand becomes more a part of me, right? It becomes more a part of my day to day basis. And it's that constant renewal, right? Constant renewal of my habits that chooses who I become over a day-to-day basis. That's the big picture here. Is that we don't realize this is going on, so we don't realize that our habits are becoming us, literally. But that's what's happening our entire life, from a baby, right? From a baby. Babies are wiring incredibly fast. Their brains are they're constantly growing, obviously, as we know. But if you look at the neuroplasticity side of it, it is crazy how much they're growing. I don't know the exact numbers by any means, but even watching a child grow and being a part of that developmental process, I've heard, and I haven't done my own research of this, but I've heard and seen situations. The more you teach a baby very early on, the more you help them begin to learn, the better they will be at learning. So it's as if um, you give something a head start within the framework of learning, you're helping them overall in general. All right, so we're kind of on a broad but still niche kind of subject here, and it's not one that I'm highly versed on. What I am moderately versed on, you could say, is habits and how our habits make up our life, how our habits determine who we are on a day to day basis, how our habits are linked and fired and wired into our being. And we have to start on the identity level to change those things, but we have to understand why that is. Why that is because we've done habits for a certain period of time or a long period of time, or we've done them in relation to certain emotional reactions. So they are heavily wired into our subconscious. They're heavily wired into our programming. You may be a big drinker because every time you had something terrible happen in your life, you went and drank to forget about it. Conversely, you might be a really good person who works out. You might be really good at working out because every time something bad happens, you went and worked out instead. It's the habits that make us up. It's the habits that make us who we are. And we can always change them, though. We can always change them. But bad habits are always there. We have to get better at analyzing them, seeing them, so we can prevent them or moderating them, whatever you want to say, whatever it is for your certain particular situation. So really, guys, what I'm trying to highlight here today is that you must be mindful of the habits you continue to keep in your life. Now, it seems very, again, overly simplistic, but that's what life's all about. Keeping it freaking simple, dude. Keeping it simple. Your life is your own. But if you give it away to negative habits and bad things that you really don't enjoy, well, it won't feel like your own. How could it? How could your life feel like your own if on a day-to-day basis you constantly spend your time and energy doing something you hate, or doing something you dislike, or doing something you know caused you a grave unhappiness? Go into that shit, man. Think about it. Think about it deeper and realize what it is that you're doing to yourself, your life, your family, your impact, your everything. Because it's only you that can change it at the end of the day. I believe in you. Have an amazing day.